Hi everyone, today on the show we're going to talk about kitsch tarots. And by that I don't mean that I have a collection of the kitschest tarots in the world, but I'd like to talk about the tarots in my collection that I do consider to be kitsch, partly kitsch or arguably kitsch. And actually, well, it's the majority of them. I suppose that says something about my taste. Okay, well, my first category is tarots with kitsch moments. This is the symbolic tarot of worth, which is a bit of a nonsense really, because it was originally a major arcana only tarot, and then somebody had the bright idea of creating fake minor arcana cards. And so here we have these rather ridiculous court cards. I mean, you know, here's the original. Very, very nice. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Oswald Worth. As you can see, they're done in a particular, rather gorgeous style. And then someone came along, whenever it was, and created some court cards. And incidentally, also some rather silly minor arcana cards. With sort of collages from bits of the major arcana all over them. But it's the court cards that I consider to be pretty kitscharoo. So there we go. It's like fake medievalism, and you can take it or leave it, but it certainly isn't really the Oswald Worth tarot. These are the decks that I think have kitsch aspects. Now, I'm a fairly big fan of a lady called Giulia F. Massaglia, an Italian tarot card designer, and as you can see, she works in a kind of Art Nouveau style, a bit of Egyptology here in her Egyptian Art Nouveau tarot. I find it a bit kitsch. It's pretty, and this is in my, you know, kitsch moments section. I don't accuse it of being fully kitsch. I think it's quite beautiful. I don't think it's a very good working tarot because it's too busy. It's got a slightly comic strip, action-packed kitsch aspect to it. I mean, I think that's very pretty. But it's kind of, it's flirting with kitsch, isn't it? And if we look at Giulia Massaglia's other deck, the Golden Art Nouveau, which is also quite a favourite of mine. It's a bit, again, it's a bit busy. It's a bit overdone. I think that the images are a bit too full, and I don't use it all that much. But it's got this action-packed comic strip thing happening, which is not in the best of taste. I mean, it appeals to the inner child in me. Italian design, I think, tends to make ladies look a bit kitsch, and gentlemen as well. I mean, these are simple kitschy pleasures, aren't they? In this deck, I mean, it's magnificent. I would call this I would put this in the category of magnificent kitsch, and it's quite usable. But as I say, slightly de mauvaise goût, I would say. Still moving swiftly on, because these are not the main culprits in this first section. These are the decks which are arguably momentarily kitsch. The Modern Witch Tarot, I think, is good in a sense. I mean, I wouldn't use it because it's monosex, which I think makes it unusable. But it is, and it's clever the way it recycles right away at Smith. But it goes to the edge of kitsch, and I'll tell you what I mean. It sort of slightly forces the gender thing, doesn't it? Because everyone's a gal, including the kings. And so you sort of have to scout about for possible non-binary people or possible women who want to, you know, present very masculine. That's tending towards kitsch, isn't it? And there, and I think, you see, I think that the modern dress thing is quite nice up to a point, and then it becomes a bit silly sometimes, I think. I mean, that's sort of jokey kitsch, isn't it? You're on the battlefield, 10 swords in you, and you're still on Instagram. And the hermit, for some reason, also checking her emails there. A bit silly. I mean, I think it's a young woman's deck. I think it's almost a kid's deck, and so this silliness, I think, is to be applauded. I'm not against this deck. It could be quite a nice, jokey introduction to tarot for a young woman. Whether that's a lady and a gentleman, who can say these days? If it is a gentleman, it's certainly the only one in the deck. Getting kitsch there, and yeah, I think that I find that kitsch because it's sort of didactic on many levels. I think, you know, that you've got a teacher figure, so you're in university, aren't you? You're being told what is right and what is wrong by some severe university lady, and it seems to be some sort of comment on art. I find that highly kitsch. Yeah, that's kitsch. So yeah, I've got mixed feelings about that deck. I think it's quite good in many ways. I think it has its place, and it deserves. It's very, very, very popular, and I think deservedly so, because it nips in and it fulfills a need, doesn't it? But yeah, a couple of wobbles on that one. Another favourite deck of mine, the Melanated, is a redrawing of the Rider-Waite-Smith with all black people in it. And on the whole, it's a bit kitschy in its colours in ways that I like very much. But there's one card that I do find fails the kitsch test. And it's that one, ladies and gentlemen. We have the Three of Swords with spooky ladies' eyes and lips in the background, and it's any person's guess as to what the intention of that is. But I think that's a classic kitsch tarot card. Another well-loved deck, the Sheridan Douglas, by Alfred Douglas and David Sheridan. And it's, I mean, people, this is like Marmite. People hate this or love it. I kind of like it sometimes because of its very, very unusual colour palette, and it's highly, highly, what the word Germans call plakativ, this sort of highly graphic style with blocks of colour. And these colours are challenging, aren't they? And very, very eccentric. And I think occasionally you get a bit of drawing that is highly kitsch. And that's one of them, The Magician. You know, you've got nice, highly graphic renderings of things. So yeah, they're quite sketchy. They were originally done as illustrations to Alfred Douglas's book. And so, you know, they're a bit rushed. I mean, I think some of them are fantastic, and I like the colours. I just want to show you, the most egregious one in the deck. That's kitsch, isn't it? That's terrific. That's terrific. Yeah, they're not quite RWS. And here is, I think, the high point of kitsch in this particular deck. It's very 70s, isn't it? It's where androgyny goes so far, ladies and gentlemen, that you might as well be aliens from outer space. So it's the David Bowie card, in other words. There you go. In our Kitsch Tarot collection. That was the Sheridan Douglas by Sheridan and Douglas. Now we're still in the decks that are basically, you know, quite respectable but have kitsch moments. Now the Bianconero, this one, is actually very chic, and it has really hasn't done much to deserve being in my kitsch video. I mean, it's lovely, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? It's nicely drawn. For me, the kitschness comes in with the artist's sort of sexuality. When I think sexuality is a potentially kitsch thing. You have the slightly kitschy ladies and gentlemen, I must say. Let me show you what I mean. Some of these are really good. They're like Tim Burton, style, with these little curly bits here and there. When things are sexy in this deck, it's on the border between being very elegant and a little bit kitsch. Some of the court cards tend to be a bit fleshy, which I'm not against. But again, the ladies seem to be a bit sort of Pirelli calendar, I think. The 4 virtues, look, there's a queen, a leggy queen. The 4 virtues are a bit pin-uppy. There you see strength. I think when the artist does the virtues, he or she, temperance, strays a little bit from the brief. It's not so much about tarot, it's more about elegance. Another leggy queen. I mean, I'm not exactly complaining, but there are guys in this deck that are on the borders of being kitsch. We have a 9 of wands, and then the pages. The pages are a little bit porno, I think. Again, which is not such a terrible trial. It's just that it can be a bit distracting. So yeah, the Bianco Nero. Apologies to the artist. It's a very chic deck, but I think it just goes to the borderline a couple of times. Just to be provocative, I've got a copy of the Thoth here, and I mean, I have my own issues with Crowley and so forth, and who doesn't? But I just want to say that I don't entirely subscribe to the idea that this is the most wonderful tarot in the world. It's a highly accomplished and highly detailed and worked deck, worked over. I would say too much. I would say there's too much detail in these cards to make them easy to read with. And some of them are, fabulous sort of 1940s graphic elegance. But, that's very nice, isn't it? And that's very nice in a sort of BBC Centre kind of way. But I don't quite subscribe to it. I think spirituality is a dangerous corner when it comes to aesthetics. I think that, I'm sure that's very spiritual, but I find it a bit strange and kitschy. I think I find the knights a bit kitsch. There's a knight. I mean, if it's kitsch, it's magnificent kitsch. Fair enough. I know that all the Thoth fans and the Frida Harris fans will be writing in saying, how dare you? It's lovely. But, I dare. It's my channel, and I might as well say what I want. I think that's really odd. There's a knight there, sort of slightly turning into a dragonfly, but also slightly turning into a helicopter, and I don't think that's a big success. I mean, the geometric stuff is fine, I suppose. Bit of Wagnerian kitsch, another wispy, wibbly-wobbly bit of spirituality kitsch, I would say, and so on and so forth. So I think it sort of lurches between the very beautiful and the slightly kitsch. I mean, I think anybody who was working with Crowley was probably completely traumatized by it anyway. So I think hats off to Frida Harris for getting through that with her sanity intact. And last but not least, I just want to say that the Wiser Tarot, I think, is an absolute car crash. It came out quite recently. It's a recolored Rider-Waite-Smith. And the frightfully modern idea is to give some of these faces dark skin. I mean, I'm into it. I like the I like that tarot very much. But I think this one here is not particularly nice. I don't like this sort of splodgy way the backgrounds have been done. I don't like the dark purples, and it just looks like it was done in 10 minutes. And it's quite striking in a way, but I'm not quite sure whether striking is good enough. And there are I think, some terrible cards in this. I'm really quite surprised that such a big publisher as Wiser should have put this out. So there we have a recolored page. It just looks hasty. It looks like it was just done so quickly. I mean, okay, so that's quite nice, right? High contrast. But that, you know, where is everything? It's all in a bit of a murk, all covered by murk, isn't it? And that is covered by murk as well. That's quite nice and contrasty. I want to show you the tower, which I think is incredibly bad. That I think is pretty horrible. And then you know, this is the one that I always show people when I'm being rude about this deck, which I just think looks awful. So, de mauvaise goût, I would say, for the Wiser Tarot. So now we come into the next category, which is arguably kitsch. Arguably kitsch, and we start off with the Morgan Greer. I'm proud because I picked this up online. It's an original Morgan Greer from, I think, 1981. It's a bit dark, but it's a lovely beast. And I was always very ambivalent about Morgan Greer, about whether I wanted to buy it, because I found it very attractive in many ways, but just teetering, ladies and gentlemen, on the brink of kitsch. So there we have the famous fool with the famous, you know, famous scrotum instead of a bundle. We've got the men with their slightly kitschy moustaches. We've got a fabulously kitsch lover's card. And then I want to show you the Wheel of Fortune. There's another moustache. Another one. That's a lovely bit of colouring, isn't it? And a very dramatic tower. As my mother used to say, I shall be most displeased if I have lost the wheel. There it is. So this is the reason why for many years I didn't buy this deck, because I thought that was just so unbearably kitsch. But you know, and it is, isn't it? It's a bit like a Monty Python picture. But actually, I have to concede, having done a bit of research over the past years, that is a medieval image, that is a Renaissance image. That is how, you know, that particular configuration with a big wheel and a crankshaft and a big giant hand and people sitting on top and falling off, that was a version of the Wheel of Fortune, and that is quite traditional. So, you know, no matter how kitsch it looks to us, we have to accept that. So yeah, arguably kitsch, that one. Then one of my bête noirs, the Fyodor Pavlov Tarot, which I think is clearly a labour of love, and it's been lovingly laboured. And it has some good qualities. I mean, the more I look at it, the less I like it. But I think it keeps falling flat on its face and falling into the kitsch hole, you know, for various ideological reasons. You know, like certain of the knights have to be women, and so he pops a knight on a horse, and you know, the horse is too big for the knight and it looks bad. I mean, some of them are just exciting, but yeah, that's a bit kitsch, isn't it? A Queen of Cups who is pregnant for no apparent reason. People tend to have short legs in this tarot, except when they don't. That is highly kitsch. I mean, this is the sort of deck that means that, you know, I can't have ads running when I include this in a video, because it's all so kind of family unfriendly. I won't even show you the devil card. Well, I will actually. Excessively kitsch lovers, and so on. It can be quite beautiful. Look, that's a lovely hanged person, hanged man. That's a lovely death card. That's a lovely high priestess. So it's there's another man with short legs. It's a mixed bag, isn't it? And I think it's completely unusable because about half the cards are just unbearable. But you know, the nice cards are lovely. So it's a bête noire, and it's something I keep complaining about. But I think it's an example of how tarot can quickly slip and slide into the realms of kitsch if you don't watch out. I mean, I think maybe tarot was a kitsch thing anyway. I think the concept of kitsch is perhaps a sort of elitist concept to keep popular art in its place. So maybe tarot is a kitsch thing. Now, next category is high class kitsch. And this is like designer kitsch. So this is kitsch which isn't really kitsch because it's meant to be the way it is. So we have two decks by Robin Attor. We've got the Attor Tarot, which I dearly love, where you have these funny figures, you know, with they've got funny hands and funny faces and funny noses, and it's all very, very reduced, and the cards themselves are short and fat. Everyone's short and fat. It's absolutely lovely. But I think it plays with kitsch, doesn't it? It's a sophisticated person's joke, a sophisticated person's graphic joke. Absolutely lovely. Highly recommended. There's a second edition which I don't recommend at all, but this is the first edition, which you can still sometimes buy secondhand online, and it's not expensive. So if you want a light tarot, that's highly recommended. And the other one by Robin Attor, by the same artist, it's called the International Icon Tarot. I think maybe a bit more towards kitsch, in that he has done the whole of the tarot like icons, in the sense of, like, you know, the sign to the toilet in the airport. Everything's reduced down to its absolute bare minimum. So all the heads are just round things. No one's got a neck. No one's got hands or feet. So it's basically you could call it the sign to the toilets tarot. But it's very nice. I think, again, like the Attor Tarot, it's very readable. Querents don't like it because it doesn't have enough information in the cards. But I think if you're a seasoned tarot reader and you read cards all the time and you want something refreshing, this is really nice, because you can supply all the extra details that Robin Attor has sort of scrubbed out of these cards. So yeah, it's a kitschy designer joke, but I think it's brilliantly done, and I think it should win a lot of prizes. It's been out for a long time. It doesn't seem to be very well known. I don't even know whether you can still get it, but I think it's an absolute delight. So high class kitsch from those two, from Robin Attor. Then another guy, French designer called Julien Paco, has a high class kitschy thing called The Hidden Message, and this is a collage deck, and I don't like collage decks except for this one. So it's, you know, it's French kitsch, isn't it? And it's absolutely brilliant. And I can just about read with this. On the whole, I can't read with photographic decks because a photograph is too specific in terms of a person in a time and a place. But this is so good. It because it's so highly surrealist, it, I think, creates an atmosphere which is quite suitable for tarot reading. So yeah, that's the Hidden Message Tarot by Julien Paco. Very, very nice. Thank you, Monsieur Paco. And if you buy it direct from the artist on his website, he will include a little note saying merci. So this is the Major Arcana only from Ashla Estrella, I think, and I use these quite a lot in my monthly readings. Major Arcana only, minis here. She does do a full tarot, but it's Marseille style, so I can't really use that. But I wanted something of her work in my practice because it's so brilliant, it's so lovely. So yeah, I'm putting this in my Kitsch Tarot's video on the strict understanding that this falls into the high-class kitsch category. It's kitschy, isn't it? It's not really kitsch because it's so pretty. But it's got that sketchy, kitschy feel. I think that's Michael Jackson, and I think in in her full tarot deck, you actually get different Major Arcana, and the Major Arcana are pop stars and actors. I think you've got Tina Turner as Strength, and you've got Sean Connery, and you've got, I don't know, all sorts of people. So absolutely gorgeous, high class, kitschy stuff from Ashla Estrella, and that's an indie deck that you buy directly from the artist, usually off via Etsy or somewhere like that. Look, comes in a little pouch. Very nice. Thank you for that. Last category, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do hardcore kitsch. There's something I want to get out of the way. I inherited this Rurik tarot, which for me comes under the category of unbearable kitsch. I would never have bought this for myself. It's, I suppose it's old-fashioned, I'm afraid to say sort of heterosexual male kitsch. I mean, I don't have to show you much for you to know why I'm a bit hard on this one. Look at these. It really does look like something that would be hanging on the wall of a garage where lots of men work as mechanics. But people swear by this tarot. They think it's, you know, it's clearly highly worked, and they think it's highly sophisticated and lovely. So who am I to disagree? And the tarot comes with a little booklet, and in the booklet there's an interview with the tarotiste. And it kind of contains details of how much money he gets paid when he sells his paintings. It's very odd, the whole thing. Just seems like a lot of ego. And I think it's, I mean, speaking as a pufter, you know, I actually think that the men are slightly less kitsch than the women. Maybe because women tend to be presented with makeup and makeup dates in a way that, and so the male face, which is not made up, it doesn't date so much. And also women tend to be presented in like swimwear and stuff, or I don't know what that is, underwear. And that dates it, doesn't it? And that makes it look kitsch. You know, and he's naughty, isn't he? He just puts in breasts, just disembodied breasts. Blah-de-blah-de-blah. So you can see why I call this kitsch. I think you can see, can't you? And that's the big kitsch number. The fork in the path. To the left, one topless woman. To the right, another topless woman. The querent has to choose. And if it was me, I would feel excluded by that card. So yeah, that's for me the nadir of kitsch. Let me show you something which I think is hardcore kitsch, but I love. It's the Gummy Bears, which I recently bought and reviewed. Gummy Bear Tarot. It's gorgeous, but I think it's safe to say that is hardcore kitsch. You get the idea. We're just getting RWS with gummy bears instead of people. That's a gummy bear's hand. So it's quite humorous. The gummy bears have no feet. They have no fingers. women find this deck a bit disturbing because the gummy bears are sexless except when they're not. So in other words, the male gummy bears are sexless, but the women gummy bears, there's a male one, just like a blob, but the women gummy bears do have added breasts, which is a bit weird. And some women, maybe quite rightly, find that a bit unacceptable. But yeah, it's a solution to a graphic problem which not everyone likes. But the gummy bears, yeah, they're in my hardcore kitsch pile, and the hardcore kitsch pile is not a bad pile, but it's a pile where I think it's beyond dispute that we're talking about kitsch. This is a kitsch deck I don't like very much, the Golden Universal, and I guess there's a non-Golden Universal as well. Got this sort of by mistake. I think it's very Pirelli calendar, and for me this is too kitsch to use. I hate the black corners. I don't know why I bought it. I think there's about 10 cards that do feel quite nice in a sort of fake Renaissance way. I thought I was going to love it. This was in the early days of my channel. It's got that Italian slightly comic strip, and quite dramatic, poses and things. Quite theatrical. I mean, that's quite nice, isn't it? But I think it's the court cards that I can't really take seriously. I can't, again, the pretty ladies I can't take terribly seriously. I mean, some of the costumes are quite daring. Yeah. It's a bit much. It might be your cup of tea, in which case rush out and get it. I think it's been around for a while, but I think it's a perennial. Some of the costumes are quite nice, but I think the overall atmosphere of this is too kitsch to use. So I've got it in my hardcore pile. Well, now the light is fading, ladies and gentlemen, but we have to finish because we're getting to the climax of my video, and these are the two decks that in a sense that made me want to make this video. And I always thought Robin Wood was like Robin Hood in a wood, but no, Robin Wood is the name of a person. Then I thought that has to be a man because the depiction of women in this tarot is so, well, the Germans would say grenzwertig, sort of on the borders. Questionable, but no, it's a woman. The best card is on the box. That's a lovely card, isn't it? That's the Magician. If only they were all as nice as that. The deck has its good points. The back is lovely. The cardstock's quite nice. It's a sort of Lord of the Rings sort of thing, isn't it? Here you've got, this is really kitsch, isn't it? You've got 6 of Swords and they're in the boat, and you see here the figure who's normally standing behind is transparent, ladies and gentlemen. It's a wraith, isn't it? It's a wraith. It's a spirit guide, which I think is quite kitsch. I mean, the deck's got spirit, hasn't it? That's got a spirited face. That's quite characterful, and the faces are characterful, and some of the drawing is very nice. I find some of the nudity a bit, I'm not against nudity, but it has to be done right. And I find it not particularly done right in this deck. I don't like these things here. I think they're called cartouches, aren't they, or something originally. And, can be quite good. Bit Wagnerian. And then goes a bit kitsch, can be quite sort of dramatic, nicely drawn, goes a bit kitsch, goes very kitsch, can be quite nice and colourful, but like way off the scale kitsch. I'm being a bit facetious, but what I would say about this deck is that it's difficult to love because the way the colours work, there doesn't really seem to be a feeling of a palette. There doesn't really seem to be, sorry about the glare, but the light's going. I've left it too late today to make this video. There doesn't really seem to be a sort of overall unifying colour scheme, except a sort of a rather high contrast selection of colours. I think this is the card that qualified this deck for me to be in the hardcore kitsch section. That's the Judgment card. What is that poor woman doing? Look at the Knight of Wands turning into flame before our eyes. The faces are nice, but they're very particular, you know. You get the feeling that it's someone's neighbour or someone's brother. They're not very archetypal. And, you know, the costumes are a bit like prog rock costumes from the 70s or 80s or whenever this one was done. You know, the yellows are just too much. I think it's too primary. It's a combination of being very primary in some primary colour in some parts and then a bit grey and a bit over detailed in other parts. And it doesn't quite know whether it's medieval or futuristic. There seems to be a very futuristic Eight of Batons going off into space. I mean, the world is usually kitsch, isn't it, in the tarot? There was something I wanted to say about this: an extraordinary tower, an extraordinary sun. There's the lovely Magician card, and we wish the whole deck was like that, don't we? I mean, I really have a problem with this, because you have this Wheel of Fortune divided into 8 bits, and in each of the bits you have someone's facial expression changes from like worst possible mood, feeling a bit better, some possibilities, cheering up, over the moon, still quite happy. I'm sorry, I don't accept that as a nice bit of graphics. These leaping about cards I don't think are very tasteful, and there you go. There's a full-on lovers card, which means that I can't monetize this video, I think, because no advertisers, or few advertisers, would want to be associated with that. So yeah, I think, I mean, the RWS is criticized for having unpleasant yellow colors, but this one, you've got unpleasant yellow colors that like crashing into unpleasant red colors, and I think just the color clashes in this deck are off the scale. I mean, I had high hopes when I bought this deck. I had high hopes that I was going to use it for my monthly readings, you know, just to give you a fright. But I decided I couldn't subject my dear viewers to those colors and those cards. And last but not least, and in a sense, top of the kitsch, you know, kitsch top of the pops, is the Hanson Roberts Tarot. Again, I almost like it, but there are things about it that really make it unusable. Every single card has a frightful little cartouche here. Every single card, major and minor and court cards. And in a way, it's more bearable than the Robin Wood, because it has a kind of coherent graphic style, you know. The colours are a bit more mellow. It's very Lord of the Rings, I think. It's very Hobbity. The reason, I mean, you have to admit that that's it's kitschy. It's big eyes, isn't it? It's the women and children are very, very sentimentally drawn. There's a lot of soft colours, pinks and mauves and things, and peaches. But it's just not nice. I mean, what are they on about? Why? I mean, the Empress has got, you know, the cartouche with the 4 different languages. The Wheel of Fortune has 2 cartouches. The High Priestess has 2 cartouches. You know, there's just like graphics all over the place. It's really horrible. They're a nice size, these cards. They're quite small, but I mean, this isn't a very jolly video, is it? I'm complaining. I should be saying what marvelous kitsch this is, what fun. And in a sense, okay, I think that proves my point. That is what marvelous kitsch, what fun, and that is oh, I don't think so. I don't think I can take that seriously. I don't think I want to encounter that when I'm trying to contact my spirit guides one morning, when I'm feeling depressed. I don't think so. I mean, that's quite nice. That's very nice. The aces are very nice. And then we have another sentimental child's face and another one. Slightly dodgy devil, I would say. And sort of slightly hard rock, prog rock magician there. It's jolly, isn't it? But I think, I mean, it's probably just my problem, isn't it? That I'm just too cynical for this sort of thing. I really wanted to get this and work it into my tarot practice, but I failed. Ladies and gentlemen, I failed to love it. I just couldn't love it. I tried. I'm actually putting the nicest ones down here, and I'm leaving out the ones that are sort of not very well drawn at all. As a sentimental child, and so on and so forth. So it might be your cup of tea. And if it is your cup of tea, then have it, because everybody needs a light tarot in their lives. Tarot shouldn't be heavy, should it? People love to make it heavy. Aleister Crowley loves to make it heavy, but we like to keep it light, don't we? At least on the light side, because life is not a horrible thing. It's a good thing, and we are here to enjoy life. So yeah, I enjoy life. I enjoy life by looking at kitsch tarot cards from time to time, and in this selection of decks there are, of course, decks that I use. You know, the Gummy Bear Tarot I use a lot. The Estrella Tarot I certainly use the International Icon Tarot. I adore the Ator Tarot. And, you know, I use the Melanated. I occasionally use the Biancanero. I occasionally use the Hidden Message. And I use the Morgan Greer all the time. You have been watching Robert Farrar. This is Tea and Tarot, and I will be back next week with more of this stuff. Bye. O moon, when I gaze at thy beautiful face, careening about through the boundaries of space, a question comes frequently into my mind. Will I ever gaze on thy glorious behind?